The stars looked beautiful from the observation deck of Epsilon Station. Commander Jake Morrison stood there with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the distant galaxies shimmer like diamonds scattered across black velvet. He had been in space for 15 years, but the view never got old. Today felt different, though. Today felt important. Jake was not alone. 2 other commanders stood with him, both looking out at the same view. Commander Lisa Grant stood to his left. Her blonde hair pulled back in a tight bun, her green eyes focused and calm. She had commanded the USS Horizon for 3 years and was known for her patience and wisdom. To his right stood Commander Alex Carter, younger than both of them at 35, but sharp as a blade and twice as quick. He commanded the USS Valiant and had a reputation for thinking fast under pressure. They were here for peace. Earth had sent them to negotiate with the Galactic Dominion, the massive empire that controlled most of the known universe. The Dominion had been around for 3,000 years. They had ships that could destroy planets. They had armies that numbered in the billions. They had technology that made Earth look like children playing with sticks and stones. But Earth was growing. Humanity had spread to 12 colonies across 3 star systems. They had built ships that could travel faster than light. They had learned to mine asteroids and terraform dead worlds. They were still small compared to the Dominion, but they were not nothing. They deserved respect. That was why Jake and the others were here. To talk. To find common ground. To show the Dominion that humans wanted peace, not war. The doors behind them hissed open. A tall alien walked in, flanked by 4 armed guards. The alien was a Xyrathi, one of the Dominion's ruling species. His skin was deep purple, almost black, and his 4 eyes glowed with an amber light. He wore robes that seemed to shimmer with their own inner light, and around his neck hung a crystal that pulsed with power. This was High Chancellor Xyrax himself, the second most powerful being in the entire Dominion, answering only to the Emperor, who lived far away on the capital world. Jake turned and bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. Lisa and Alex did the same. They had studied Dominion customs for months preparing for this meeting. Xyrax did not bow back. He stood there, looking at them with an expression that was hard to read. Was it curiosity, contempt, amusement? "So," Xyrax said, his voice deep and resonant, speaking in perfect English through a translator device. "These are the humans who wish to speak with us." "Yes, High Chancellor," Jake said, keeping his voice steady and respectful. "We come representing Earth and all human colonies. We seek peace and cooperation between our peoples." Xyrax walked slowly around them, studying them like a scientist might study insects under glass. His guards remained by the door, weapons ready, but not aimed. "Yet, your species is young," Xyrax said. "So very young. You have barely crawled from your home world, and already you think yourselves worthy of speaking to the Dominion as equals." Lisa spoke up, her voice calm. "We do not claim to be equals, High Chancellor. We simply ask for the chance to coexist peacefully. Our territories are small. We pose no threat to the Dominion." "No threat?" Xyrax stopped walking and turned to face her directly. "Everything is a threat, Commander Grant. A seed is a threat to the gardener, who does not wish for weeds. A spark is a threat to the forest. Your species spreads and grows and consumes. We have seen it before with other young species. It always ends the same way." Alex stepped forward slightly. "High Chancellor, we have brought gifts as a sign of good faith. We have technology to share, resources to trade. We believe both our peoples could benefit from cooperation." Xyrax laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. It reminded Jake of metal scraping against metal. "Gifts," Xyrax said. "How quaint. Tell me, Commander Carter, do you give gifts to ants before you step on them?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Jake felt his stomach tighten. This was not going the way they had hoped. All their training, all their preparation, none of it had prepared them for such open hostility. "High Chancellor, Jake said, trying to salvage the situation. We understand that trust must be earned. We are willing to prove ourselves. We are willing to accept whatever terms you feel are reasonable. We only ask for a chance. Zyrax turned to look at him. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he smiled. It was the kind of smile that made Jake's blood run cold. You want a chance? Zyrax asked. Very well. I will give you a chance. A chance to deliver a message to your people. Before Jake could ask what he meant, Zyrax raised one hand. The guards by the door raised their weapons. They were strange devices, crystalline and glowing with blue light. Wait, Lisa shouted, but it was too late. The weapons fired. There was no sound, no explosion, no heat, just a flash of blue light that hit Jake in the chest. He felt his body go numb. His legs stopped working. He fell to the floor, unable to move, unable to speak. His eyes still worked, though. He could still see. From his position on the floor, he watched as Lisa and Alex fell too, hit by the same weapons. They lay there beside him, their eyes wide with shock and fear. Zyrax walked over to Jake and knelt down beside him. The weapon is called a neural disruptor, he explained casually. It paralyzes you completely, but leaves you conscious. You can feel everything. You can hear everything. You simply cannot move or speak. Interesting technology, is it not? Jake wanted to scream. He wanted to fight. He wanted to do anything, but his body would not respond. He could only lie there and watch. Your message to humanity is this, Zyrax said, standing up and addressing all three of them. The Dominion does not negotiate. The Dominion does not compromise. The Dominion rules. You will submit to our authority, or you will be destroyed. He nodded to his guards. Two of them came forward and began dragging Jake toward the airlock. He could see the others being dragged as well. His mind raced. This could not be happening. This was supposed to be a diplomatic mission. They were protected by interstellar law. You did not execute ambassadors. But Zyrax did not care about laws. They were pulled into the airlock chamber. Through the transparent door, Jake could see Zyrax standing there, watching them. The High Chancellor touched a control panel on the wall. I am broadcasting this to all human colonies, Zyrax announced. Let them see what happens to those who dare to think themselves worthy of our time. The airlock door sealed shut. Jake lay on the cold metal floor next to Lisa and Alex. He could see their faces. Lisa was crying, tears running down her cheeks even though she could not move. Alex's eyes were closed tight, as if he could somehow wish this away. Red lights began flashing. The outer door was opening. In moments, they would be exposed to the vacuum of space. Death would come quickly after that. The air would be sucked from their lungs. The pressure would cause their bodies to expand. The cold would freeze them solid. Jake thought of his wife back on Earth. He thought of his daughter who was only 7 years old. He would never see them again. He would never get to hold them or tell them he loved them. The outer door opened fully. Air rushed out in a violent storm. Jake felt himself being pulled toward the opening. His body tumbled through the airlock and out into space. The cold hit him like a hammer. His lungs screamed for air that was not there. His vision began to blur. But before the darkness took him completely, he saw something that gave him a strange sense of peace. He saw Earth. Small and blue and beautiful. Far in the distance. Home. And then there was nothing. On Earth, billions of people watched the broadcast. They watched as 3 of their finest commanders were executed like criminals. They watched as their bodies were cast into space, like garbage. They watched as High Chancellor Zyrax stood in front of the camera and delivered his ultimatum. Submit or die, he said. You have 1 Earth week to give us your answer. The broadcast ended. For a long moment, there was only silence across Earth and all its colonies. People sat in their homes, in their offices, in their ships. unable to process what they had just witnessed. Then the silence broke. Not with screams or cries, though there were plenty of those. It broke with a single word, spoken in the Council of Nations emergency meeting. The word was simple, just a name. But it carried weight that made even the bravest leaders pause. Baba Yaga, someone said. The room went quiet again. Everyone knew that name. Everyone knew what it meant. It was a ghost story. A legend. A nightmare. That the enemies of humanity whispered about in the dark. Admiral Patricia Cole stood up slowly. She was 60 years old, gray-haired and stern-faced. She had served in Earth's defense forces for 40 years. She had seen wars and battles and death. But even she felt a chill when she heard that name. "Are we really considering this?" someone asked. Cole looked around the room at the faces of the other council members. She saw fear there. She saw anger. She saw grief for the 3 commanders who had died. But most of all, she saw determination. "The Dominion thinks we are weak," Cole said quietly. "They think we will bow. They think we have no choice." She paused. "They are wrong. We do have a choice. We have a weapon they do not know about. A weapon that ended the border wars 15 years ago." "She disappeared," another council member said. "No one has seen her since." "I know where she is," Cole replied. "I have always known." The room erupted in shocked whispers. Cole raised her hand for silence. "I kept track of her location in case we ever needed her again," Cole explained. "I hoped we never would. I hoped she could live in peace. But now, 3 of our people are dead. Now the Dominion has threatened to destroy us all." She looked each person in the eye. "Now we need her." A vote was called. It was unanimous. Earth Defense Command was authorized to retrieve the one person who might be able to stand against the Galactic Dominion. They were going to bring back Baba Yaga. Far away on an ice world at the edge of known space, a woman sat alone in a small cabin. She did not know yet that her peaceful exile was about to end. She did not know that Earth would soon call her name, but she would answer. She always did. Captain Danny Hayes sat in the transport ship and watched the ice planet grow larger in the view screen. The planet was called Haven's End, and it looked like a frozen hell. White and gray clouds swirled across its surface. Mountains of ice stretched as far as sensors could detect. The temperature outside was 200 degrees below zero. Nothing lived there except the wind and the cold, and one very stubborn human being. Danny had volunteered for this mission. When Admiral Cole asked who would go retrieve Kate Sullivan, every hand in the room had gone up. But Cole chose Danny. They had history, he and Kate. They had served together during the border wars. They had been friends once, before everything went wrong. Entering atmosphere, the pilot announced from the front of the ship. The transport shook as it hit the outer layers of the planet's air. Ice crystals formed on the view screen. The heating system kicked into overdrive. Danny checked his survival suit one more time. It was rated for extreme cold, but he still did not trust it. This was the kind of place where one mistake meant death, where exposed skin would freeze solid in seconds, where the wind could knock a person down and bury them in snow before they could stand back up. The ship descended through the clouds. Below, Danny could see the surface. It was worse than he imagined. Jagged ice formations jutted up like teeth. Deep crevasses split the ground. Nothing but white and gray as far as the eye could see. "Sensors are picking up a structure," the pilot said. 2 kilometers north. "Looks like it is built into a glacier. Take us down as close as you can," Danny ordered. The transport touched down in a flat area that might have been a valley once. Before the ice covered everything, the engines whined as they powered down. Danny stood up and pulled on his insulated gloves. He checked his oxygen supply even though the planet had a breathable atmosphere. "Better safe than sorry. Want me to come with you?" the pilot asked. Danny shook his head. "Stay with the ship. If I am not back in 2 hours, leave. Without me." "Sir," I cannot. That is an order, Danny said. If something happens to me, Earth needs to know. You get back and report. The pilot did not look happy, but he nodded. Danny opened the airlock and stepped out into hell. The cold hit him immediately. Even through the suit, the wind screamed like a living thing, trying to push him back into the ship. Snow whipped across his visor, making it hard to see. He activated his helmet's heads-up display. A glowing arrow appeared, pointing toward the structure. 2 kilometers. In this weather, it might as well be 20. Danny started walking. Each step was a battle against the wind. The snow was knee-deep in places, and his boots kept breaking through into deeper drifts. His breath fogged inside the helmet. Ice formed on the outside of his visor, and he had to keep wiping it away with his gloved hand. After what felt like hours but was probably only 30 minutes, he saw it. The structure was built into the side of a massive glacier, almost invisible against the ice. It was small, barely larger than a single room. Smoke rose from a chimney pipe that stuck out of the glacier's surface. Danny approached the door. It was made of thick metal, designed to withstand the planet's brutal environment. He raised his fist and knocked. The sound was swallowed by the wind. He waited. No answer. He knocked again, harder this time. The door opened. A blast of warm air rushed out. Standing in the doorway was Kate Sullivan. Danny had not seen her in 15 years, but he would have recognized her anywhere. She was shorter than him, only about 5'6", with dark hair cut short and practical. Her eyes were gray, the color of storm clouds. She wore simple clothes, a thermal shirt and pants. No shoes. In her hand, she held a very large knife. "Danny," she said. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "Can I come in?" he asked. "It is freezing out here." She stared at him for a long moment, then stepped aside. Danny hurried in, and she closed the door behind him. The warmth of the cabin felt like heaven after the cold outside. The inside of the structure was simple but comfortable. A bed in one corner, a small kitchen area with a stove and cabinets, a table with 2 chairs, a fireplace burning with what looked like compressed fuel blocks, shelves lined with books, a workbench covered with tools and mechanical parts. It looked like a place where someone had decided to disappear forever. "Take off your suit before you track snow everywhere," Kate said. She put the knife down on the table and moved to the stove. "I will make coffee." Danny removed his helmet and gloves, then began unfastening the survival suit. By the time he had it off, Kate had placed 2 cups of steaming coffee on the table. He sat down gratefully and wrapped his hands around the warm cup. "You look good," he said. It was not entirely true. She looked tired. She looked older than her 42 years, but she was alive, which was more than could be said for a lot of people from the border wars. "You look terrible," she replied. "Earth must be treating you badly." Danny laughed despite himself. Kate had always been blunt. It was one of the things he liked about her. "I need to tell you something," he said. "Something bad happened." Kate sat down across from him. "I know. I still have satellite access. I saw the broadcast." Danny was not surprised. Kate had always been prepared. "No," Kate said firmly. "I am not going back. 3 commanders are dead, Kate. They were executed. Murdered. While trying to negotiate peace." "I know," Kate said again. Her voice was still flat, but Danny could see something flicker in her eyes. Pain, maybe, or anger. "And I am sorry for them, but I cannot help." "Cannot or will not?" Danny asked. Kate stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the storm raged. "I retired for a reason, Danny. I killed too many people. I did things during the border wars that still wake me up at night. I came here to get away from all of that. To find peace." "There is no peace," Danny said. "Not anymore. The Dominion is giving Earth 1 week to surrender. If we do not, they will destroy every human colony. Billions of people will die. Then surrender, Kate said. But there was no conviction in her words. You know we cannot do that, Danny replied. The Dominion does not take prisoners. They take slaves. Every human being would be forced into servitude. Our children would be raised as property. Our culture would be erased. We would cease to exist as a free people. Kate turned to face him. What do you expect me to do? I am one person. The Dominion has fleets. They have armies. They have resources beyond counting. I expect you to do what you do best, Danny said. I expect you to scare them so badly they wish they never heard of humanity. Kate laughed, but it was a bitter sound. You want me to be Baba Yaga again? Yes, that person does not exist anymore. She does, Danny insisted. She is just hiding. But she is still in there. I can see it in your eyes. Kate was quiet for a long time. She looked at the fire burning in the fireplace. She looked at the books on her shelves. She looked at the simple life she had built for herself on this frozen world. Then she walked to a cabinet in the corner. She opened it, and Danny saw what was inside. A flight suit. Black as midnight. A helmet with a white skull painted on the visor. Equipment he recognized from the old days. During the border wars, I flew 300 missions, Kate said quietly. I destroyed 300 enemy ships. I killed thousands of people, maybe tens of thousands. I never counted. She reached out and touched the flight suit. I told myself I was doing it to protect Earth, to save lives. But the truth is, Danny, part of me enjoyed it. Part of me loved the hunt, the kill, the fear I saw in their eyes when they realized I was there. That does not make you a monster, Danny said. That makes you human. Does it? Kate turned to look at him. I remember every ship I destroyed. Every face I saw before they died. I remember their last transmissions. Their screams. Their pleas for mercy. I remember all of it. And I swore I would never do it again. Danny stood up and walked over to her. Jake Morrison had a daughter. She is 7 years old. Lisa Grant was engaged to be married next month. Alex Carter was 20 days away from retirement. They all had lives, Kate. They all had futures. The Dominion took that away from them without a second thought. And they will do it again. They will do it to millions of people. Unless someone stops them. Kate closed her eyes. Why me? Earth has other pilots. Other ships. Other options. Because you are the best, Danny said simply. Because during the border wars, the enemy learned to fear you. They called you Baba Yaga, the witch, the nightmare. They would rather run than fight you. And Earth needs that now. We need someone who can make the Dominion afraid. Someone who can show them that humanity is not weak. And after? Kate asked. After I do this, what then? Do I come back here? Do I disappear again? Do I keep killing until I am dead myself? That is up to you, Danny said. I cannot promise you peace. I cannot promise you happiness. All I can promise is that you will save lives. Innocent lives. Children who deserve a future. Kate stood there, in front of the open cabinet, staring at the black flight suit. Danny could see the war happening behind her eyes. The part of her that wanted to stay here forever, safe and alone. And the part that remembered her oath to protect Earth and all its people. Finally, she reached into the cabinet and pulled out the flight suit. She held it up to the light. It looked like a piece of darkness given form. I will do this one more time, she said. Just once. I will go back. I will fight. I will be Baba Yaga again. She looked at Danny, with those storm-gray eyes. But after this is over, you leave me alone. All of you. Forever. Do you understand? In the first. All of you. All of you. Do you understand? Yes, Danny said. I understand. Kate began pulling on the flight suit. It fit her perfectly, like it had been waiting all these years for her to return. She fastened the seals and checked the equipment. Her movements were automatic. Muscle memory from another life. "How long until my ship is ready?" she asked. "Your ship?" Danny was confused. "We brought a transport. We can take you back to Earth and assign you a vessel from the fleet." Kate shook her head. "No. I need my own ship. The Raven. It is in a hangar, 3 kilometers from here, buried under the ice. I have kept it maintained. It will need some system checks, but it should be operational within 24 hours. "You have had a ship here the whole time?" Danny asked, amazed. "Of course," Kate said. "Did you think I would trap myself on a planet with no way to leave? I may want to be alone, Danny. But I am not stupid." She pulled on the helmet. The white skull grinned at him from the black visor. It was a symbol that had once terrified entire fleets. "Go back to your transport," Kate said. Her voice now filtered through the helmet's speakers. "Tell Admiral Cole that I am coming. Tell her to prepare tactical data on the Dominion's fleet positions. Tell her I want real-time intelligence on their movements. And tell her to keep Earth's fleet away from the Epsilon sector. I work alone." "Understood," Danny said. He put his survival suit back on, preparing to face the storm again. Before he opened the door, he turned back to her. "Kate?" "Yes? Thank you," he said, "for coming back, for helping us. Even though I know you do not want to." Kate was silent for a moment. Then she said, "I am not doing this for Earth, Danny. I am not doing it for the fleet or the Council of Nations. I am doing it for Jake Morrison's 7-year-old daughter. For Lisa Grant's fiancé. For Alex Carter's mother, who will never see her son again. I am doing it because someone has to." Danny nodded. "That is good enough." He opened the door and stepped out into the storm. Behind him, he heard Kate moving around the cabin, gathering supplies, preparing for war. As he walked back to the transport, fighting through the wind and snow, Danny felt something he had not felt since watching the execution broadcast. He felt hope. The galaxy had taken 3 of Earth's finest and thought that would break humanity's spirit. But they were wrong. They had made a terrible mistake. They had given Baba Yaga a reason to come back, and now she was going to remind them why monsters check under their beds at night. Kate Sullivan stood in the buried hangar and looked at her ship. The Raven had been sleeping under the ice for 15 years, but it looked ready to fly. She had kept it that way. Every few months, she would trek through the storms to this hidden place and perform maintenance. Check the systems. Run diagnostics. Keep the engines warm. Some habits hard. The ship was small compared to military vessels. It was barely bigger than a fighter, designed for a single pilot. But what it lacked in size, it made up for in capability. Kate had built it herself during the final year of the border wars, incorporating every lesson she had learned from 300 combat missions. The hull was made from a composite material that absorbed sensor waves instead of reflecting them. In space, against the black void, the Raven was almost invisible. The engines had been modified to run cooler than standard, reducing heat signatures. The weapons were custom designed for precision rather than raw power, and the computer system was the most advanced AI she had been able to acquire, capable of processing combat data faster than any human pilot could manage alone. Kate climbed the ladder into the cockpit. The seat welcomed her like an old friend. She ran her hands over the controls, remembering how each switch felt, where each button was located. The muscle memory came back instantly. She powered up the systems. Lights flickered on across the console. The AI came online with a soft chime. "Hello, Kate," the computer said. It spoke with a female voice, calm and measured. "It has been 473 days since your last visit." "Hello, Raven," Kate replied. She had named the AI after the ship. It seemed fitting. "How are you feeling?" "All systems are operational," Raven reported. "Battery charge is at 97%. Life support is functional. Weapons are ready. Engines show green across the board. Shall I begin pre-flight checks? Yes, Kate said. And start uploading tactical data from Earth Defense Command. They should be sending it now. Receiving data now, Raven confirmed. Dominion fleet composition. Ship positions. Command structure. Patrol patterns. This is quite extensive. Kate watched the data stream across her displays. The Dominion had deployed 3 dreadnoughts to the Epsilon sector. Each one twice the size of Earth's largest warships. Supporting them were 24 cruisers and countless smaller vessels. The total firepower was enough to level a planet. Any sane person would look at those numbers and surrender immediately. Kate had never been accused of being sane. Flag the primary target, she ordered. High Chancellor Zyrax. I want to know where he is at all times. Confirmed, Raven said. Zyrax is currently aboard the flagship Immortal Dawn. The dreadnought is positioned at the center of the Dominion formation. Kate studied the tactical display. The Dominion was not expecting an attack. Why would they? Earth's fleet was outnumbered and outgunned. The smart move was to negotiate or surrender. Fighting would be suicide. That was what they thought. Estimated travel time to Epsilon sector? Kate asked. At maximum slip space velocity, 18 hours, Raven replied. Plot the course, Kate said. But keep us off the main shipping lanes. I do not want anyone to know we are coming. Course plotted. However, I must point out that attacking a fleet of that size alone is tactically inadvisable. Kate smiled. I know. That is why it will work. They are not expecting it. They are not expecting it because it is insane, Raven pointed out. You are starting to sound like Danny, Kate said. She began running through the pre-flight checklist. Fuel cells, check. Shields, check. Weapons, check. Life support, check. Everything was green. Kate, Raven said, and there was something different in the AI's voice. Something almost like concern. I have been analyzing the tactical data. The Dominion executed 3 unarmed commanders. They broadcast it as propaganda. This is not a military action. This is terrorism. I know, Kate said quietly. If you engage them, this will become a war. Earth's fleet will be drawn in. People will die. Many people. People are already dead, Kate replied. Jake Morrison, Lisa Grant, Alex Carter. And if we do nothing, the Dominion will kill millions more. At least this way, we die fighting. You do not believe we will win, Raven observed. Kate was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I believe we will make them regret ever threatening humanity. That is enough. She finished the pre-flight checks and began the launch sequence. The hangar's roof opened slowly. Ice and snow falling away as massive doors separated. Daylight, such as it was on this frozen world, streamed in. Kate engaged the engines. The Raven lifted smoothly off the hangar floor, rising through the opening and into the storm above. Wind buffeted the small ship, but Kate's hands were steady on the controls. She had flown in worse conditions. She pointed the nose toward the sky and accelerated. The Raven shot upward, breaking through the cloud layer and into clear space. Stars appeared around her, millions of them, beautiful and cold and indifferent. Course locked in, Raven announced. Preparing for slip space transition. Hold on that, Kate said. She turned the ship and looked back at Haven's End. The planet was a white sphere, scarred with storms and ice. It had been her home for 15 years, her refuge, her prison. She wondered if she would ever see it again. Probably not. This mission would likely be her last. That was fine. She had made peace with death a long time ago. Raven, she said, if I do not make it back, I want you to know something. Yes, Kate, you were a good ship. The best I ever flew. There was a pause. Then Raven said, Kate smiled. I appreciate the confidence. But we both know the odds. I do not care about odds, Raven said firmly. I care about you, and I will do everything in my power to bring you home safely. Kate felt something warm in her chest. She had programmed Raven's AI herself, but somewhere along the way, the computer had developed something like personality. Maybe even something like loyalty. It was oddly comforting. Then let us go, remind the galaxy why they used to fear us, Kate said. Engage slipspace drive. The stars stretched into lines. Reality folded in on itself. The Raven disappeared from normal space and entered the realm between dimensions, where ships could travel faster than light. Kate sat back in her seat and closed her eyes. 18 hours until they reached Epsilon Sector. 18 hours to prepare herself mentally, to remember her training, to become Baba Yaga again. She thought about the first time she had killed someone. It was during the border wars, early in her career. She had been 27 years old, fresh out of advanced flight school, assigned to patrol duty along the frontier. A pirate ship had ambushed a civilian transport. Kate had responded to the distress call. The fight had lasted 3 minutes. Kate's training took over. She maneuvered into position, locked onto the pirate vessel, and fired. The ship exploded in a ball of flame. 23 people died instantly. Kate had thrown up in her helmet afterward. She had cried for hours. She had filed a report and been told she did the right thing. She had saved the civilian transport. She was a hero, but she did not feel like a hero. She felt like a murderer. That feeling faded with time. The second kill was easier. The third, easier still. By the 10th, she did not even think about it. By the 100th, it was just a job. And by the 300th, she had become something else entirely. Something cold and efficient. Something that the enemy feared more than death itself. Baba Yaga. The name started as a joke. Some enemy pilot had transmitted it during a battle, screaming that the witch was coming for them. The name stuck. It spread through the enemy ranks like a virus. Soon, entire fleets would retreat if they thought she was nearby. Commanders would argue about whether Baba Yaga was even real or just a myth created by Earth propaganda. She was real. She was very real, and now she was coming back. Kate opened her eyes and studied the tactical displays. She began planning her approach. The Dominion fleet was strong, but strength could be a weakness. Large ships were slow. Large formations were predictable. The Dominion was used to overwhelming their enemies with superior numbers and firepower. They were not used to fighting someone who refused to face them head-on. Kate would not engage their fleet directly. That would be suicide. Instead, she would pick them apart. One ship at a time. Strike from the shadows. Create fear and confusion. Make them paranoid. Make them doubt their sensors. Make them shoot at ghosts. She would become the monster in their nightmares. Raven, she said, I need you to design an attack pattern. Something unpredictable. Random intervals between strikes. Vary the approach vectors. Never hit the same type of ship twice in a row. Creating algorithm now, Raven replied. The AI processed for several seconds. I have generated 17 different attack sequences. Each one is designed to maximize confusion and minimize our exposure to return fire. Good, Kate said. Load them all. We will use them as needed. She continued planning. Fuel consumption. Ammunition reserves. Escape routes. Fallback positions. Every detail mattered. One mistake could mean death. But Kate had not made a mistake in combat in 15 years. She had been perfect during the border wars. Every shot found its mark. Every maneuver succeeded. Every mission completed. She would be perfect again. The hours passed slowly. Kate ate a simple meal from her ship's supplies. She ran through combat drills, keeping her reflexes sharp. She meditated, clearing her mind of doubt and fear. She became the weapon Earth needed her to be. As they approached Epsilon Sector, Raven spoke up. I am detecting increased communications traffic ahead. The Dominion fleet is very active. What are they saying? Kate asked. Translating now, Raven said. A moment later. They are discussing the ultimatum. High Chancellor Zyrax is preparing another broadcast to Earth. He intends to show humanity the consequences of defiance by destroying one of the outer colonies. Kate felt anger rise in her chest. Cold anger. Controlled anger. The kind that made her dangerous. Which colony? New Boston, Raven replied. Population 800,000. Mostly civilian. They are defenseless. When? In approximately 6 hours. Kate looked at the chronometer. They would reach Epsilon Sector in 1 hour. That gave her 5 hours to stop the attack. 5 hours to change the course of history. It would be enough. Raven, she said, her voice calm and cold. Activate weapons systems. Charge the main cannon. Prepare for combat emergence from slipspace. Weapons hot, Raven confirmed. All systems ready. Preparing to drop out of slipspace in 60 seconds. Kate's hands moved over the controls, each motion precise and practiced. She adjusted her seat position. She checked her harness. She activated the combat displays. The cockpit dimmed. Red lights illuminated the console. Outside the view screen, the streaking stars began to slow. 30 seconds, Raven announced. Kate took a deep breath. Then another. Her heart rate slowed. Her breathing steadied. This was what she was made for. This was what she was good at. 10 seconds. The last human thoughts faded from her mind. The woman named Kate Sullivan disappeared. Only the weapon remained. Only Baba Yaga. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Emergence. Reality snapped back into place. The Raven dropped out of slipspace at the edge of Epsilon Sector. Immediately, the sensor displays lit up with contacts. 3 dreadnoughts. 24 cruisers. Dozens of smaller vessels, all of them belonging to the Galactic Dominion. Kate's eyes scanned the display, identifying targets, calculating angles, planning her first strike. She saw a cruiser on patrol at the edge of the formation. It was alone. Vulnerable. Perfect. Target acquired, she said. Attack run in 5 seconds. Confirmed, Raven replied. Beginning attack sequence 1. Kate pushed the throttle forward. The Raven accelerated, slipping between the stars like a shadow. The cruiser ahead had no idea she was coming. They would learn soon enough. The witch had returned. And she was very, very angry. The cruiser was called the Dark Fortune, and its crew had no idea they were about to die. They were on routine patrol, scanning the edges of the Epsilon Sector, bored and complacent. The war with humanity was already won in their minds. Earth would surrender within days. This was just cleanup duty. Captain Vex, a Zyrathi officer with 30 years of service, sat in his command chair and watched the displays with half-interest. His crew of 200 operated their stations efficiently, but without urgency. There was no threat here. No danger. Just empty space and distant stars. Contact! The sensor operator suddenly shouted. Unknown vessel, approaching at high speed. Vex sat up straight. Identify. Unable to identify, sir. The signature is too small. Could be a fighter or a probe. A probe? Vex frowned. Out here? That makes no sense. It is accelerating, sir. Coming straight at us. Raise shields, Vex ordered. Charge weapons. It is probably nothing, but better safe than sorry. The crew moved quickly now, their training kicking in. The Dark Fortune's defensive shields came online. Weapon systems powered up. The ship went to yellow alert. Range? Vex asked. 10,000 kilometers and closing. Still unable to get a clear sensor lock. How can you not get a lock? Vex demanded. Our sensors are military grade. They can track a small asteroid from twice that distance. I do not know, sir. It is like the ship is absorbing our sensor beams instead of reflecting them. Vex felt the first touch of unease. Evasive maneuvers. Get us away from whatever that is. Get us away. The Dark Fortune began to turn, its massive bulk moving slowly through space. But it was too late. Kate lined up her shot perfectly. The targeting reticle locked onto the cruiser's reactor housing. She could see the weak point in the shields, a tiny gap where the defensive field had to allow for the ship's own sensor arrays. Every ship had such weaknesses. You just had to know where to look. She fired. The Raven's main cannon spat a bolt of concentrated energy. It crossed the distance in less than a second. The bolt slipped through the shield gap and struck the reactor housing with surgical precision. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the Dark Fortune exploded from the inside out. The reactor breach created a chain reaction that tore through the entire ship. 200 crew members died instantly, vaporized by the explosion. The cruiser broke apart, pieces spinning away into the void. Kate was already gone. She had fired and accelerated away before the explosion even finished. The Raven slipped back into the darkness, invisible and silent. First target eliminated, Raven announced. No damage sustained. No counterfire detected. Good, Kate said, moving to target 2. Display patrol routes. A tactical map appeared on her screen. 24 cruisers, each one following a predictable pattern. Kate studied the routes, looking for the next lone ship. She found one on the opposite side of the sector. ETA to target 2. 15 minutes, Kate said. Keep us off their sensors. Affirmative, Raven replied. Routing us through the asteroid field. The Raven wove between chunks of rock and ice, using the asteroids as cover. Kate's hands moved smoothly over the controls, making tiny adjustments to their course. Flying this close to obstacles required absolute concentration, but it also made them nearly impossible to track. 15 minutes later, they approached the second cruiser. This one was called the Silver Talon. Its crew was slightly more alert after hearing about the Dark Fortune's destruction, but they still did not see Kate coming. She struck from above this time, diving down from a higher orbit. The attack was over in seconds. Another reactor breach. Another explosion. Another 200 lives snuffed out. Kate felt nothing. No guilt. No satisfaction. Just cold efficiency. 2 down, she said. 22 to go. But the Dominion was starting to react. On the flagship Immortal Dawn, High Chancellor Xyrax stood in his command center and watched the reports with growing concern. 2 cruisers destroyed in the span of 30 minutes. No visual confirmation of the attacker. No sensor data. Just explosions and death. What are we dealing with? Xyrax demanded. His tactical officer, a thin Zirathi named Krell, studied the data. Unknown. High Chancellor. The attacks are precise. Surgical. Each strike targets the reactor housing specifically. Could it be a new Earth weapon? Some kind of stealth missile? Possible, but unlikely. The attack vectors are too varied. Missiles follow ballistic paths. This is something else. Xyrax clenched his fists. Then what? I believe it is a ship, High Chancellor. A very small, very stealthy ship with an experienced pilot. One ship? Xyrax's voice dripped with disbelief. One ship is attacking my fleet? It appears so, sir. Then find it. Xyrax roared. Deploy fighters. Increase sensor sweeps. I want that ship found and destroyed immediately. Yes, High Chancellor. The Dominion fleet went to high alert. Fighters launched from the dreadnoughts and cruisers, filling space with dozens of small, fast vessels. Sensor arrays went to maximum power, scanning every cubic meter of the sector. Ships moved closer together, creating overlapping defensive fields. Kate watched all of this from a distance. Raven's sensors picked up the increased activity and plotted it on the tactical display. They are adapting, Raven observed. The fleet is tightening its formation. They launched 48 fighters. Let them, Kate said. Tight formations are easier to predict, and fighters cannot catch us. She proved it over the next 6 hours. Kate struck again and again, always from unexpected angles. She destroyed 3 more cruisers before the Dominion could react. Each time, she was gone before their fighters arrived. Each time, she left nothing but wreckage and confusion. The Dominion's communications network filled with panicked chatter. Captains arguing with each other. Fighters reporting sensor ghosts. Crews jumping at every shadow. Fear was spreading through the fleet like poison. Good, Kate thought. Fear makes people make mistakes. She found her next target. A cruiser that had separated slightly from the main formation. But as she approached, Raven spoke up urgently. Kate, I am detecting an energy spike. They are charging their weapons. All of them. Kate checked her displays. The entire Dominion fleet was powering up its weapons. Not to fire at her, but at something else. What are they targeting? Calculating, Raven said. A moment later, they are targeting New Boston Colony. The attack is beginning. Kate felt ice run through her veins. She had been so focused on the cruisers that she had forgotten about the colony. The Dominion was going ahead, with their plan to destroy it as a message to Earth. She checked the distance. New Boston was 3 million kilometers away. Even at the Raven's maximum speed, it would take 20 minutes to get there. By then, it would be too late. The colony's shields could not withstand bombardment from 3 dreadnoughts. 800,000 people were about to die, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Raven, Kate said, her voice tight. Calculate firing solution for the nearest dreadnought. Target their main weapon array. Tuvar, Kate, we are too far away. At this range, our weapons will not have enough power to— Just do it, Kate snapped. Calculating, Raven said. A moment later, solution plotted. However, I must point out that even if we hit, the damage will be minimal. We cannot stop all 3 dreadnoughts. I know, Kate said. But maybe we can distract them. Buy the colony time to evacuate. She knew it was hopeless. She knew 800,000 people could not evacuate in 20 minutes. But she had to try. She had to do something. Kate locked onto the nearest dreadnought and fired. The bolt of energy streaked across the void. It took several seconds to cross the distance. When it hit, it did almost nothing. The dreadnought's shields absorbed the impact easily, but it got their attention. On the immortal dawn, Zyrax watched as his tactical displays registered the hit. It had done no damage, but the fact that the ghost ship had revealed its position was significant. Did we get a sensor lock? He demanded. Yes, High Chancellor. Krell replied excitedly. The enemy ship is 3 million kilometers out. It just fired on the vengeful storm. Send all fighters to that location, Zyrax ordered. I want that ship destroyed. Now, 48 fighters changed course, accelerating toward Kate's position. At the same time, the 3 dreadnoughts continued charging their weapons, preparing to fire on New Boston. Kate watched the fighters coming for her. She had maybe 5 minutes before they arrived. Not enough time to escape. Not enough time to save the colony. She had failed. But then Raven spoke up, and there was something strange in the AI's voice. Something almost like excitement. Kate, I am receiving a transmission. It is from New Boston Colony. What do they want? Kate asked bitterly. To thank me for trying? No, Raven said. They want to thank you for the warning. Warning? I did not send any warning. Your attack on the dreadnought alerted them to the danger. They have activated emergency protocols. The colony is evacuating now. They estimate they can get 70% of the population to safety before the bombardment begins. Kate felt something crack in her chest. Not everyone would escape. 560,000 people would survive, but 240,000 would still die. It was not enough. It was never enough. Kate, Raven said gently. You saved 560,000 lives. That is not nothing. Tell that to the families of the dead, Kate said. The fighters were almost on her now. Kate shook off her grief and focused. She could mourn later. Right now, she had to survive. Evasive maneuvers, she ordered. Get us out of here. The Raven dove and twisted, accelerating away from the approaching fighters. Weapon fire filled the space where she had been moments before. Kate flew through the barrage like a dancer, never in the same place twice, always one step ahead of the enemy. The fighters tried to follow, but they were too slow. The Raven slipped away into the darkness, vanishing from their sensors. Behind them, the 3 dreadnoughts opened fire on New Boston Colony. The planet's shields flared and failed under the bombardment. Cities burned. People died. And Kate could do nothing but watch. She watched until the attack ended. She watched as the colony went dark. She watched as the Dominion fleet regrouped, satisfied with their display of power. Then she spoke, her voice colder than the void of space. Raven, I want a new target. Not a cruiser. Something bigger. The dreadnoughts? Raven asked. Yes, Kate said. Starting with the immortal Dawn. I want Xyrax. I want him to feel what those colonists felt. I want him to know fear before he dies. Understood, Raven said. Plotting attack course now. Kate sat in her cockpit, surrounded by stars and darkness, and felt something change inside her. She had tried to do this surgically, efficiently, minimizing casualties. That was done now. Now she would show the Dominion what happens when you awaken something that should have stayed buried. She would show them why enemies told stories about Baba Yaga to scare their children. She would show them why monsters check under their beds at night. The hunt was no longer about tactics or strategy. It was about vengeance. And Kate Sullivan was very, very good at vengeance. High Chancellor Xyrax stood in the command center of the Immortal Dawn and watched the feed from New Boston Colony. The planet was burning. Millions of tons of rock and metal had been reduced to molten slag. The colony's shields had failed after the first volley. The second volley had destroyed the major cities. The third had simply been to make a point. The message was clear. This is what happens to those who defy the Dominion. Send the footage to Earth, Xyrax ordered. Let them see the consequences of their stubbornness. They have 4 days left to surrender. Yes, High Chancellor, Krell replied. Xyrax felt satisfied. The ghost ship had been a nuisance, destroying 5 cruisers and causing minor disruption. But it had fled when the fighters pursued it. It had not dared to attack the dreadnoughts. Whatever it was, it knew its limitations. The Dominion remained in control. Earth would surrender. Order would be restored. He was wrong about all of it. Kate spent 12 hours preparing. She did not sleep. She did not rest. She studied every detail of the Immortal Dawn's design. She analyzed its shield harmonics, its weapon placements, its engine configurations. She memorized the positions of its defensive turrets, the timing of its sensor sweeps, the patrol patterns of its fighter escort. Raven helped, processing millions of data points and creating attack simulations. The AI ran the scenario 4,000 times, looking for the approach with the highest probability of success. The best chance was still only 37%. Those are not good odds, Raven pointed out. I know, Kate said, but they will have to do. There is another option, Raven said carefully. We could return to Earth. Report our findings. Let the main fleet handle this. The main fleet would be destroyed, Kate replied. The Dominion has too much firepower. Earth's only chance is if I can break their command structure. If I can make them afraid. If I can show them that humanity is not prey. And if you die? Kate was quiet for a moment. Then at least I die doing something that matters. She finished her preparations and plotted her course. The Immortal Dawn was at the center of the Dominion formation, protected by the other 2 dreadnoughts and a screen of cruisers and fighters. Getting to it would be like flying through a metal storm. But Kate had done impossible things before. Beginning approach, she announced. Attack run in 30 minutes. The Raven slipped through space, moving slowly at first, staying below the Dominion's detection threshold. Kate brought them in from an unusual angle. Above the plane where most ships traveled, the Dominion's sensors were focused on the horizontal, watching for threats from traditional approach vectors. They were not watching up. Kate descended slowly, killing the Raven's engines and letting momentum carry them forward. They were gliding now, silent and invisible, a piece of darkness falling through the void. 20 minutes to target, Raven whispered. Even the AI seemed to understand the need for silence. Kate's hands rested lightly on the controls. Her breathing was slow and steady. Her heart rate was calm. She had entered the state she called the quiet place, where fear and doubt did not exist, where there was only the mission. Fighter patrols passed below them, their sensors sweeping back and forth. Kate watched them, timing their movements, finding the gaps in their coverage. The Raven drifted through those gaps like smoke. 10 minutes to target. The immortal dawn grew larger in the view screen. It was massive, nearly 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons. Its shields glowed with a faint blue light. Hundreds of windows dotted its hull, each one representing crew compartments, control rooms, weapon bays. Somewhere in that ship was Xyrax, the one who had ordered the execution of Jake Morrison, Lisa Grant, and Alex Carter, the one who had ordered the destruction of New Boston Colony, the one who thought humanity was weak. Kate was going to teach him differently. 5 minutes to target. Charging weapons. The Raven's main cannon began to hum as power flowed into it. Kate adjusted their angle slightly, lining up the shot. She was aiming for the command center, the bridge where Xyrax would be standing. The shields were strongest there. But Kate had found a weakness in the harmonics, a frequency where the shields would be vulnerable for just a fraction of a second. It would require perfect timing. The shot had to be fired at exactly the right moment, or it would fail. Kate had never missed. 1 minute to target. The Raven was directly above the immortal dawn now, so close that Kate could see individual hull plates. Below them, the Dreadnought's crew had no idea that death was hovering over their heads. 30 seconds. Kate's finger rested on the firing trigger. Her eyes were locked on the targeting computer. The numbers counted down. The shield harmonics cycled through their pattern. Almost there. Almost. 10 seconds. The command center was right in front of her. She could see it through the view screen. She could see the lights inside. She could imagine Xyrax standing there, confident and smug, thinking he had won. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. Kate pulled the trigger. The Raven's main cannon unleashed every bit of power it had. The bolt of energy was so bright that it lit up the entire sector. It struck the immortal dawn's shields at precisely the right frequency, at precisely the right moment. The shields failed, just for an instant. But an instant was all Kate needed. The energy bolt punched through the hull and into the command center. The explosion was catastrophic. The entire forward section of the Dreadnought was gutted. Secondary explosions rippled along the hull as systems failed and reactors overloaded. On the bridge, Xyrax had 1 second to realize what was happening. 1 second to see his entire command center torn apart around him. 1 second to know that he had been wrong about humanity. Then he was gone, vaporized by the explosion. The immortal dawn did not die immediately. It was too large, too well built, but it was crippled. Life support failed in half the ship. Engines went offline. Weapons stopped functioning. The massive Dreadnought began to drift, powerless and broken. Kate did not wait to admire her work. The moment she fired, she engaged the Raven's engines at full power. The ship shot away from the Dreadnought just as the entire Dominion fleet opened fire on their position. Thousands of weapons lit up the void. Energy beams and missiles and projectiles filled the space where the Raven had been. But Kate was already gone, weaving through the barrage, her reflexes pushed to their absolute limit. Raven's shields took several hits. Alarms blared in the cockpit. Hull integrity dropped to 70%. Then 60. Then 50. "We need to get out of here," Raven shouted. "Working on it," Kate replied through gritted teeth. She dove toward one of the cruisers, using it as a shield between her and the pursuing fighters. The Dominion ships hesitated, not wanting to hit their own vessel. Kate used that moment to slip around the cruiser and accelerate away. More weapons fire chased her. The Raven's shields failed completely. A missile grazed the ship's hull, tearing off a chunk of armor plating. Another alarm sounded. The engines were damaged. They had maybe 10 minutes of full power left before they would fail. Kate pushed the ship harder. The Raven screamed through space, its damaged engines leaving a trail of plasma that made them easy to track. Fighters pursued, closing the distance. "Kate, we are not going to make it," Raven said. There was no fear in the AI's voice. Just acceptance. "Yes, we are," Kate insisted. She was not ready to die yet. Not when there was still work to do. She saw an asteroid field ahead. It was small, but it might be enough. Kate aimed the Raven toward it and pushed the engines beyond their safety limits. The ship entered the asteroid field at a speed that would have terrified any other pilot. Kate flew between the rocks, using every trick she had ever learned. The pursuing fighters tried to follow. But Kate was better. She was always better. One fighter clipped an asteroid and exploded. Another got caught in a debris field and was torn apart. The rest fell back, unable to match Kate's flying. Kate found a large asteroid with a hollow cavity and brought the Raven inside. She powered down the engines and all non-essential systems. The ship went dark and silent. They waited. Kate could hear her own heartbeat in the quiet cockpit, could hear Raven's cooling systems ticking as they adjusted to the lower power state. Outside, the Dominion fighters searched the asteroid field. They passed within meters of the Raven's hiding spot. But they did not look inside the hollow. They did not see the small black ship pressed against the rock. After an hour, the fighters gave up and left. Kate waited another hour to be sure. Then, she powered up the ship's systems and assessed the damage. It was bad. The engines were operating at 40% capacity. The shields were completely offline. The main cannon was drained and would need 12 hours to recharge. They had taken structural damage to the hull and lost life support in 2 sections. "Can we make it back to Earth?" Kate asked. Raven calculated for a moment. "Barely. It will take 3 days instead of 18 hours. And if we encounter any Dominion ships, we will not be able to fight or run." "Then we better hope we get lucky," Kate said. She set course for Earth and engaged the damaged engines. The Raven limped away from Epsilon Sector, leaving behind a crippled dreadnought and a fleet in chaos. Back at the Dominion formation, the 2 remaining dreadnoughts tried to restore order. But chaos had taken hold. Crews were panicking. Captains were arguing. No one knew what to do. High Chancellor Zyrax was dead. The Immortal Dawn was a floating wreck. 5 cruisers had been destroyed. And somewhere out there, the ghost ship was still hunting. Fear had replaced confidence. Doubt had replaced certainty. The commander of the 2nd dreadnought, a Zirathi named Dral, made a decision. He opened a channel to Earth. "This is Commander Dral of the Galactic Dominion," he said. "We wish to discuss terms of ceasefire." On Earth, in the Council of Nations chamber, people stared at each other in disbelief. Admiral Cole stood up slowly. "This is Admiral Patricia Cole of Earth Defense Command," she replied. The negotiations took 2 days. In the end, the Dominion agreed to withdraw from all human territories. They agreed to respect Earth's borders. They agreed to pay reparations for the attack on New Boston Colony. And they agreed to return the bodies of Jake Morrison, Lisa Grant, and Alex Carter for proper burial. In exchange, Earth agreed not to deploy their secret weapon again. They did not specify what the weapon was. They let the Dominion imagine. When the treaty was signed, people across Earth and all the colonies celebrated. They danced in the streets. They cried tears of joy. They had survived. Humanity had faced the might of the Galactic Dominion and won. 3 days after the battle, the Raven limped into Earth orbit. The ship was barely functional. One engine was completely dead. The hull looked like it had been through a meteor storm. It was a miracle it had made the journey. A recovery team met Kate at the landing pad. Medical personnel rushed forward to check her condition. News cameras recorded everything. Crowds gathered to see the pilot who had saved humanity. Kate climbed out of the cockpit slowly. She was exhausted. Her flight suit was stained with sweat and blood from where she had hit her head during the escape. Her hands were shaking from 3 days of constant alertness. Admiral Cole was there, waiting. She saluted Kate formally. Kate returned the salute, though it took effort to lift her arm. "Welcome home," Cole said. "I did not do it alone," Kate replied. She looked back at the Raven. The ship was scarred and battered, but it had brought her home. "Raven deserves credit too. I am just happy you are alive." Raven's voice came from the ship's external speakers. Cole smiled. "The Council wants to honor you. They want to give you medals. They want to make you a hero." Kate shook her head. "No. No medals. No ceremonies. I did what needed to be done. That is all." "The people want to thank you," Cole insisted. "The people can thank me by letting me go home," Kate said. "I am done, Admiral. I came back because you needed me. I fought because lives were at stake. But now, it is over. I kept my promise. I saved Earth. Now you keep yours. Leave me alone." Cole looked sad but nodded. "I understand. Your ship will be repaired and returned to you. You can go back to Haven's End whenever you want." "Thank you," Kate said. She started to walk toward the transport that would take her away from this place. But then she stopped and turned back. "Admiral," she said, "those 3 commanders, Morrison, Grant, and Carter, they came in peace. They tried to do the right thing. Make sure people remember that. Make sure they are honored properly." "They will be," Cole promised. "The highest military honors. Their names will be remembered forever." Kate nodded. That was enough. She left the landing pad and disappeared into the crowd. Within hours, she was on a transport back to the ice planet. Back to her cabin. Back to her exile. The galaxy talked about what happened at Epsilon Sector for years afterward. The story grew and changed with each telling. Some said Baba Yaga flew a ship made of shadows. Some said she could not be killed. Some said she was not human at all, but a ghost made real by humanity's will to survive. The Dominion never forgot the lesson they learned. They never threatened humanity again. They kept to their side of the galaxy and stayed far away from Earth's colonies. The memory of what one pilot in one small ship had done to their mighty fleet was too fresh, too frightening. And on Haven's End, Kate Sullivan sat in her cabin and watched the stars through her window. She thought about Jake Morrison's daughter, who would grow up without her father. She thought about Lisa Grant's fiancé, who would never have the wedding they planned. She thought about Alex Carter's mother, whose son would never come home. She thought about the 240,000 people who died on New Boston Colony, and she thought about the 560,000 who lived. It was not enough. It would never be enough. The dead haunted her dreams, just as they always had. But at least she had tried. At least she had fought. At least she had made the enemy pay for their cruelty. Kate stood and walked to the cabinet where her flight suit hung. She looked at it for a long time. Then she closed the cabinet door and locked it. She hoped she would never need it again. But she knew better. Violence always came back. Evil always returned. And when it did, humanity would need someone to stand against it. Baba Yaga would be waiting. The galaxy had learned its lesson. But Kate knew lessons were forgotten with time. So she kept her ship maintained. She kept her skills sharp. She stayed ready, just in case, because that was what monsters did. They waited in the dark, watching and listening. And when something terrible came hunting for the innocent, the monsters came out to hunt back. Kate Sullivan was humanity's monster, and she was very, very good at her job. The end.